Hi everybody, Gisele Grenier here from artplace.ca. Look at my table. I was doing some cleaning up and I was grabbing a whole bunch of stuff and I got inspired to do a page based on one of our swaps that we're doing, and it's called Romantic Steampunk. And I thought I would, grab a whole bunch of stuff, throw it on my table, and only use those supplies to do something. So I have a whole bunch of stuff here. Now, I won't bring in anything new other than what's here, but I may not use all of what you see. So, but whatever I do use, I'll list it at the end of the video. That way you won't have to take notes if you want to try some of the things that I've got. So just to quickly cover off, I've got some watercolor tape. This is what I use when I stretch watercolor paper, when I do a formal painting, and I use this to stretch the paper. And so I took some of this, and then I used this punch, and I just punched two sides. I thought it was kind of cool. That's gum tape. So put that aside. And I have some brushes. These are line nickel brushes. I have some soft grip rounds, small and medium sized. I've got bristle brushes, small and large, a foam brush, and a glue brush. And I've got a scrubby pad. Now the scrubby pad I use anytime I use the decoupage in the brushes because it gets right into the ferrule. So I use this to clean it. I do not use this on any of the fine art brushes. This is only for brushes that I put the glue on. Got an old sponge. I've got some DecoArt metallic luster. This is a rub. This is one of their new products. A bunch of random stamps. Now the stamps are just basically I was doing some other things and I had just cleaned them. They were drying and I just grabbed those. So stamps, it doesn't matter what you use. So I've got, these ones though I did pull out. These are clocks and keys, some random shapes, text, a butterfly, some other text. And this one here, this one I pulled out because it's got some old keys. This is Canadian. I didn't know a Canadian company made these, so I've got those. A pouncer, a spongy pouncer, a dauber. These are from DecoArt. Plastic palette knife, scissors. And typically when I do a journal page, I've got my decoupage, the matte finish for the glue, some gesso. I may or may not use this, I don't know, but I always had it out. And then for the paints, the DecoArt Traditions, and I have these colors. These colors I actually pulled out, but the watercolor medium was already out, so I had watercolor medium. And then what I have, which are the typical colors when I'm doing something vintage, permanent alizarin crimson, phthalo green blue, transparent yellow iron oxide, transparent red iron oxide, and quinacridone burnt orange. And the crimson and phthalo green I will use to make my black, because I try to avoid using black out of the tube when possible, especially when I'm working for something transparent. Vintage gold paper effects, and I've got the writer tip there. And I've got some glamour dust, purple passion, copper, and ice crystal. Don't know if I'm going to use them, but they're out. At the very end, I pulled this out, satin varnish to seal my page. Brush basin full of cool water. And I've got my palette. This is a light nickel palette. And I like using this when I use the watercolor mediums. My other one, I let my acrylics dry, so I had to throw it in the garbage. It was not usable, so pulled out my new one. A brayer, my jelly plate. Go down. Ranger non-stick craft mat. An acrylic block for the stamps. 3 stencils. So this is Royal Tiles. These are all from DecoArt. Royal Tiles. I'll just show you there the shape. And it's for the corners, what I want to use. Okay. And then polka dot accent and kaleidoscope accent. You can see the shapes there. The camera hates focusing on these. So I'll put that where? Here. And I've got a little key die cut. And I'm going to be actually using the metallic luster with that key die cut. That's going to be her earring. And then I've got 300-pound cold press watercolor paper here. And I've got a video on this on my YouTube channel and on my blog, how I tear the paper. You can cut it. It's just 8 by 10. Now, I got these images. I bought the Steampunk source book from Dover. and Dover, and I got this lady, and I got this circle. So my idea for this, she doesn't typically look like steampunk, but I'm going to make her like that. And I'm not going to go over the top with the steampunk stuff, but I just more of a vintage look. And my idea for this is that she's a bride waiting for her man to arrive. So I'm gonna look about doing something similar to this, and her head's gonna be way down here. Okay, now the binding is done here, so depending on how my swap partner is going to want to bind this, they can bind it in the journal here, but there's plenty of room. But you can do this as well on masonite, canvas, whatever you want. Everything that I show, teach, demonstrate, unless I specifically say it's only for the surface, it can be done on any surface. So I do know some people that don't like art journaling. Why, I don't know, but they don't like art journaling, so you don't have to do this in an art journal. The key is going to be her earring. Okay. Her key is going to be the earring, and then I'm going to do a random background in the back. Now, I don't have a set process. I don't have a plan. This one is, I'm not even going to edit out my mistakes, or I'm going to try very hard not to go, ah, darn. But I'm going to show everything. So there's no editing involved. I like to show everything because that way beginners, if there's any beginners out there, they'll see the whole process. But if you're more intermediate, just fast forward through the video. That's it. I did get some comments before that I showed too much detail. Well, that's what the fast forward button is for. I prefer showing everything. That way if somebody's new, they can learn something. Oh my goodness. Okay, first thing, beginners. When you have a jar of gesso, regardless, or even paint, clean the outside edge before you put the cap on, because now this is sealed. And I don't have time to, oh, there we go. I don't have time to clean it, or to put it under water right now. There we go. So all I'm going to do, now the jelly plate, you can use the actual jelly plate or make your own gelatin plate. Doesn't matter to me whatsoever. And to start, I want to get some, gesso is great for resisting something. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to work with those stencils. I want to get my background done first. And I'm going to use just the dots. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this, just this brush, and I'm just going to put a little bit of gesso in here. I'm not going to do a slight light pounce. I'm going to really rub that in there. Now what you want to do with this, when I do pause, you want to definitely, and I'll just line up the circles over another one, so that way it'll be a full, even pattern. You want to put these in water. If you're doing a project that you can't just stop to clean your stencils, you want to put these in water right away so the gesso doesn't dry. In saying that, I have done this with stencils and I was too lazy to clean them, or I was doing a video, forgot to put them in water. The gesso will just dry on this. It'll just stiffen up your stencil. Okay, so let's see, the circle's here, so let me put another one here. I'm not going to worry about measuring, and you know, if I waste a little bit of this because the picture's going to cover it, so be it. I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, here we go. Now let's see if I can, I don't even know if you can see those circles. Probably not. Probably can't. No, the camera's going to be very difficult. It's not going to even... Oh, wait. There we go. Okay, so we got all those. Okay? So that brush will go in water, and I'm just going to cap this. Now, this should be clean before you put the cap on. So when I pause, I will do that after. This is going to dry, so what you can do to speed up the drying time is a heat gun. Okay? I tell people all the time, you start about 12 inches above. The heat gun is going to heat up. It's low air force, but it's going to heat up. Put your hand about here and move your heat gun up or down until your hand can comfortably stay there, and that's what you're going to use to dry your paint. We're not embossing. Okay, embossing is where you're putting a powder over a wet ink, and you put the heat gun very close, and it only takes a few seconds. If you put your heat gun too close to your paper at a high heat, you will burn the acrylics, and you will basically burn your paper. If you're doing this on Terraskin, do not use a heat gun because the Terraskin will warp. All right, so I'm just going to let this dry, and I'm going to go and wash my stencils, and I'll be back in about 2 minutes. Alrighty, so this is fairly dry. So what I'm going to do now, I'm just going to make up some paints. Now I've had some people ask me about how I make up the Traditions paints. Now you can use craft paint as well, and you can use watercolors. That's no problem. I do my fine art painting with the Traditions, and I just find, because I know the paint is very consistent, that I just use it for everything. But with the Tradition, I tend to do a lot of color mixing, and I have to remember that, especially for beginners, that I want to try to keep the color mixing to a minimum. So I will end up, I will start using some more of the Decor Americana. It's their craft paint, a very high-end craft paint. But these are all single, phthalo green. See, phthalo green, the minute I open it up, it gets all over me. With the Tradition, I do a lot of color mixing, but they do have some mixed colors, which are beautiful. So I'm just pouring, and I have a set way of my palette, typically with the shape of the color wheel. Oh, I got some dry gesso in this one. Oh, well, we'll see what happens. So I've got the phthalo green, permanent alizarin crimson, and then this is a transparent red iron oxide, quinacridone burnt orange, and then transparent yellow iron oxide. These are all transparent colors by nature, which is really nice when you're working with a lot of layers. So to this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an equal part of watercolor medium. Put that aside and just mix it with the palette knife. This part here, what I will do is I will stop the camera and do this. This is tedious because you have to, for me to prepare just this takes me about 2 minutes because you have to mix it up really, 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 really well. The one nice thing with this is that acrylics are permanent. Okay, so once they dry, that's it. But by adding the watercolor medium, you can reconstitute it with water, so you can actually use it like watercolors. Then if you want to thin it down even a little bit more, you can add some the Decor Extender or blending medium. Let me get the bottle so I could show you. This one here, you just add a few drops of that. In the same respect, you can then, on the other hand, take the Decor Traditions, and there's an actual formula that you can use with the extender and blending medium. Over 2 weeks, you can make up a set the paints to work like oils. Okay. So you just mix it up really well. You have to get that mix well, like really, really well. And then this palette will last me all day. Now I have been able to take the paint once it's dried and reconstitute it by just spraying some water on it. I have been able to do that. But anytime I'm making art, doesn't matter what it is, if I have a palette like this, because I want to clean my palette, because now we don't have chaos anymore, so there's no more worries about kitty cats jumping on the table. But now we have a new puppy. Well, she's 9 months old now. We've had her for a couple of months, and she's not really allowed in my studio anymore because she's a rescue. We have no history on her. She's really all the problems you would expect from a rescue. She doesn't have. She's really, like, thunderstorms don't bother her, all stuff like that. But in the studio, she sees all these wonderful sticks called paintbrushes. You know, she loves picking stuff up and stuff like that. So with the paint, with the paint, there's a smell to the paint that she really likes. So I don't let my palettes out. Like, I'll close the door, but like in the studio, if I'm working in here, she's allowed in here. But just the smell, if I turn my back, I don't want her grabbing the palette. So I'll just take the paint and I'll just slap the paint onto another journal page to just to use up the paint. Now the paints are non-toxic, but that doesn't mean you can eat them. Okay. Same thing like if you like oil, like olive oil is not toxic to humans, but you wouldn't want to drink a whole bottle of it. Okay. Just mix this up. But yeah, like I've like, and there's a cover on this, so I'll be safe. I'll be safe to leave this. And I know this is tedious, and I've only got one more to do, so there's no point in me stopping the camera. There we go. I had a lady email me. She goes, "How do you get your dog to stop eating your paintbrushes?" And I said, "Well, where do you have your paintbrushes?" She goes, "On a lower shelf." I said, "Put the brushes on a higher shelf." So anyways, but yeah, it's like baby proofing. Chaos was another one. Chaos would always, when I was doing bookbinding on camera, she always knew. So she would jump up on the table. She would play with the string, and I left her on, leave her on camera, film it, because it's a fact of life. There we go. So that's it. It's garbage. Here we go. Alrighty. So, well, that took 6 minutes to do that. So yeah, fast forward. So now what I want to do is I want to get a really nice wash on this. So I'm going to put some of these paints away to make some room, and then I'm going to get my brush. Now I am missing a brush now. I'm looking, and I am missing a brush. I'm not going to pull out a new brush, but I don't know if it's okay. So I'll use this one. There we go. I'm not going to bother making room. So I'm going to get the transparent yellow iron oxide. Let's see what that color looks like. Yeah, that's pretty good. It's the big flat brush that I'm looking at. So I'm going to get some water, and you can spray this if you want. Oh, sponge in water, and I'm just going to wet this. And transparent red iron oxide, and I'm just going to get that layer started in there. Now, if you're doing this at home, you get yourself another brush. But I do these as challenges for myself to only use what I put out on the table. And as well, I don't use my terribly expensive brushes for this. These are the soft grip brushes, and the soft grip brushes are amazing brushes. As they wear down, I then move them to my what I call my rough bin, and I have a container, oh, it's over on the side, of all the brushes that are starting to break down, that aren't good anymore for detail work, but they're good for this type of stuff. I'm very abusive to my brushes. Okay. Now, one thing I didn't tell you to use, but that's a typical thing in all painting, is paper towels. I've got all these old napkins from when we went to the, what's it, the pita hut? The pita pit. So, I'm just going to wipe out the excess. So you can see now where the circles were. Now at this point you can dry this, or you can just keep going, and I'm just going to keep going, but this is now where I'm going to start doing some more stenciling. So I'm going to put this here, and I'm going to use this little pouncer thingy. This is quinacridone burnt orange. That's a little bit too intense. I just put a little bit of water on it. It's a little bit strong. Oops, I got some on the side. Oh, and it's smudged. That's okay. Just to show you. There we go. I'm just going to thin it out. Just going to thin it out. Let's try this again. Let's see if I can do it this way. Clean out the stencil. What does it do? Well, it would have helped if I had it on the right side, but that's okay. See, now, about 10 years ago, I'd be so, oh, I gotta edit this out. I gotta edit this out. Ugh, I don't care anymore. Because that way, if you guys do the same thing, there's no perfect painters out there. You'll know what to do. Look at that nice honeycomb effect. And I'm going to carry this through now, and I can take the same sponge, and I can just go outside. If I pounce over that, it'll blend everything together. Now I know the girl is going to be in here, but I don't want to have any edges showing, so I'm just going to kind of bring it in. What's the worst that can happen? The image is going to cover it up. And normally I would just use my foam brush for that, but they break down a lot faster. Okay, let me just make sure I have... See, it's going to cover up most of it. Right now it's just getting a background in there. Now I'm going to dry this. I'm just going to get it quickly set up. Now if you're using a watercolor type of paint, and when you do layers, if you wanted to actually put now, let's say, a green over this, it's going to turn into mud because red and green are opposite on the color wheel, and you're going to get a neutral color. You could put a layer of some type of medium on there. Now remember, now you would have to remember that the medium that you put on there, let's say like a varnish or something, the more you brush it out, you're going to disturb this. So you can use something like Spectrafix, okay, which is a fixative, workable fixative that you can spray on top of this. Okay, you can do that, and that'll help keep the help this from getting all disturbed. And let's see, I'm going to, oh, let me just throw in my paper towel, and I think now I'm going to do some stamping. All right, so now I'm gonna make some room here. Now this is where I need my jelly plate, and the jelly plate is strictly for doing the stenciling. That's dirty. So I'm going to take my palette knife, and I want to work with some transparent red iron oxide. And I'm just going to pull that out. Well, this palette knife does not work with this palette. There we go. I'm going to use my brayer, even that out. Okay, and I can take any random shape and put that in there. Absolutely beautiful. Now, I am going to show you something else while this dries. And this could be anything. It doesn't matter what shape it is. All it's doing is to create some interest in the background. Let's clean that up. See this pattern that's here? Oh man. Paper. Paper. Just gonna get a piece of... So this here now, so you don't waste this. This is mono printing, and then you can... There we go. Instant background. Okay, so see I miss a little bit here. I can go right here and just fill that in. Okay, let's make another one. And I will usually have, see, a couple of these cards handy so I can basically prepare other stuff because they're so random. I'll never be able to do that pattern again ever the exact same. So now let's go into a little bit of alizarin crimson, and we'll just roll this a bit. Now this is very, very intense. You don't need a lot. I'm thinning it out. Really, I didn't put too much on there. Thinning it out because I want it to be really, really transparent. And more for the butterfly. Oh, well, too transparent, I think. Too transparent. Is that going to show? Oh, that's just very light. So I'm just going to put the butterfly. Random. These are going to just be, these are not important. These are just images for the background. Because I have the watercolor medium on this I will be able just to rinse with water. Let's take just a text block. This is just for imagery. And the butterfly I'm actually going to use on top of the image, just a little one. I got these at a garage sale. Okay, just random. And now this is where I want to get the black in there. So I'm going to take some phthalo green. Oh, wait a minute. I see an opportunity here. I see an opportunity here. When you're if you're stamping an actual text, when you're doing this, it's going to be backwards. But I'm just doing this as a background. Oh, it didn't show up too well. Let me press that. It's drying out. There we go. Got something in there. Now, phthalo green. A bit more alizarin crimson. This is going to make my black. Remember, phthalo green, alizarin crimson are opposite on the color wheel. A bit more. Okay, this palette is... So now I know next time not to use a palette like this for when I'm doing this type of thing, because it's just, the palette knife is too hard to get in there. Now, if you're using regular acrylics, don't let your stuff sit for this long, because it'll be very hard to clean. You'll have to, I use 1000 plus stain remover, and some of you may know it as Winning Colors. So I'm just going to get a stamp, random stamps. Oh. Some of you professional stampers out there probably going, what the heck is she going to ruin her stamps? To me, I don't care. And just put that in there. Put that there. Love that. And I'll put one in right about here. Okay. The clocks I'm going to actually put on the girl's face, so I'm going to leave that like that now. Okay, now placement. So I want to put a little bit more, not too much, and no, not going to use that one. So I'm going to place that, the butterfly. There we go, like that. There we are. Okay. Oh, that's nice. Do another one here. Wonder if I can do a double stamp on this one. Yep. Alrighty. So everything I'm going to do now from this point, when I actually glue this down, I'm going to color that. And now I do want to do something with this paper here, but I'm going to lose the effect of the deckled edge. So that's not going to work now. Okay, so I'm not going to end up using this. I'll use this in something else. So I'll put that aside. I'll use that in something else, which is... Oh, duh, I'm so stupid. That would make a really, really pretty border. No, not cut, torn. When I do, the only structured art that I do are my pet portraits and people portraits. Everything else is just so random, and people will just say, oh, slow down. I don't like this torn edge. I don't like that torn edge, but I really want to use this tape. That's where I'm going to put it, right there. So let's get a little bit more interest in here. Don't know if this is... Okay. And one more butterfly. There we go. Let's start gluing some of this down now. I'm just going to use a deco page. Ugh. And I'll just use the foam brush for the big one, and I'll use a little glue brush for the edges. What's really cool with the decoupage is that you can use it to seal as well, and it's a resist. But if you get this on your fingers, wash your hands right away with good soap and water, because it does stick like a son of a gun. It sticks. Now if I was using just straight acrylics, I would just brush right over this whole thing, but because this is with the watercolor medium, I don't want to get any of the, I don't want to actually brush on top of the paint. There we go. Especially where there's an actual design. Not yet anyways. Then I'll cut this by hand. Okay. Then Madame, she'll go right here. And I'll glue that down. Hold on, let me do something else first. There I go again. Transparent yellow iron oxide with a lot of water. Just get that toned. I'm not liking the yellow. I'm going to take a little bit of red, a little bit of green. Let's get something dark going there. Kind of like gray. Lots of water. That's better. This is a train station. I'm not going for opaque coverage. What I'm doing is I'm toning the white. And sponge. The sponge is still wet. nice and dark there. There we go. It's going to wipe out some of this. Okay. There we are. That takes care of that. Oh, now the lady's going to be here, so I'm not too worried about the glue there. Okay. I need more room. And once this goes down, it's not coming back up. Oh, I'm going to lose a little bit of this. This I don't care about. Now there's no detail in here, so I will just put that over there. Put a little bit of decoupage on here, feathering that edge out, just so you don't have a hard line. Be careful how much you put on the edge, so you want that to be sealed, but don't try to rub too hard where you've done your stamping, because you'll lose the detail. That's going to dry clear. Right over here, I'm just kind of patting. Try not to disturb the stencil or the stamping. Water. I gotta clean that before I do anything. Okay, so I'm just gonna let this sit for a bit, and then I'm gonna cut that off, and I'll just randomly put a little bit of this over, because it'll change how the paint sticks to the paper. This is not being used as a glue now, it's just being used as a resist. Alright, so I'm going to let this dry for a few minutes, and I'm going to clean up the lid, and I'll be right back. I want to show you something. The watercolor, the Traditions with the watercolor, it dried on here, and I thought I'd just kind of roll the roller on that, and to show you how you can get some really cool pulled off pieces. This is really cool. There you go. You can get some nice images on that. Edges. There we go. So even during the cleaning process, what am I going to get on here now? Ooh, lots of broken bits. Look at that. So I could then, to take advantage of the broken bits, I could even just stencil. Am I going to get enough off there? I don't think I'm going to get enough off there. But if I put a little bit of water on here, Let me get some random stuff happening. A little bit. There we go. Look at that. Look at the stencil now. It's filthy. There you go. So there's another thing that you can do. And this I could actually cut out to an ATC or just use this as an actual postcard or one of my visual prompts, which is what I'm going to end up doing. Okay. I'm going to paint the girl first. I'm not going to use this all the way down because it's going to cover her head. I'm going to use it as a corner border probably. I really want to use this. So now we're going to paint Madame because I got to get the earring on there so it has time to dry. Now her I'm going to use strictly transparent red iron oxide. Hang on, let me see. Or do I want transparent? Do I want burnt orange? No. This is actually pretty nice here. Not too much. Just to put a little, just to change the tone of the white. I'm getting rid of the white. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some glitter, not glitter, glamour dust for parts of her dress. Even though this is vintage, wedding dresses have always some type of good glam on it. Now you can probably see where some of the decoupage resisted some of the color. Okay, and I'll take a little bit of permanent alizarin crimson for the flowers. There we go. And I want to stencil or stamp keys on her. Not keys, clocks. And we're going to use the orange. We're going to use the orange. You can use whatever you want. Right on her here. Very, very, very subtle. You're just going to be able to see parts of it. And I turn it around over the whole thing, over her whole pretty face. And this only works with what I'm doing with a transparent pigment. It is so subtle. But I want to stay inside the circle. This would probably be easier with a smaller stamp. There we are. I don't know if you could be able to see. It's very, very subtle. Okay, that takes care of that. And I want to put some green back on here with some alizarin crimson. some of those random shapes back on here. And the text block on her dress. I like the text blocks. I really like that. Butterflies, not so much. Oh, and this one here. And then once I do this, then I'm going to be done. I'm going to be done. Oh, this is, I have to glue this onto a block. That didn't really show up. There we go. Then I'm going to put a wash of color on top, and then we're going to actually we're going to do the corners. And let me get this cut now. I'm following along where it's torn, where the actual watercolor paper is torn. And this is just my way of making my page. It's not really a lesson or anything. It's just something that I'm showing. And now if I put a little bit of transparent red iron oxide. No, that's I keep saying that it's quinacridone burnt orange. It'll just really settle that down and pull out that circle. So I'm just layering the colors now. Use a little bit of transparent red iron oxide. A little bit of water. Ooh, like a little bit of alizarin crimson in there. That's okay. Raw umber would have been a nice stenciling color as well. And what I'm watching for now is I have to make sure that I'm not going to be pulling up any of that pigment. Get those circles showing up. If I rub too hard with the brush, I'm going to lose a detail. But I'm just laying the stuff down, and it's okay. I love the roughness of that. Love it, love it, love it. And she's almost dry. She's almost dry. No, can't do that yet. Where's that key? Here we go. Let's do the key. And I don't have any cheesecloth, so I'm just going to use a napkin. And all I'm going to do is take a little bit and just rub the key. Would help if I was doing the right side. With stuff that's so detailed like this, I could spend the time and paint it. But I have to get right inside all the little holes and stuff like that. And I like the look of this metallic luster. I really love it. I'm actually going to try an actual key, like an actual key. This stuff lasts a long time. Get more of a vintage look to it. The Dazzling Metallics are great but sometimes it's just a little too much. There, that's going to be there, and just going to glue that down onto her ear. I need my little tweezers. Okay, that takes care of that. Okay, and this is so messy. This is sometimes when I create some of the best art, is when it's all messy. And I want black. I want a black. Where's that brush? Go back to alizarin crimson, green. If you use tube black out of the tube, first of all, it's going to be kind of, it'll be muddy when you mix it with other stuff, but it's not going to be transparent. Oh, I'll just use the dauber. See this? All the stenciling, the stamping underneath is going to show through. Because I'm using phthalo green and alizarin crimson, everything's going to show through. Now, if you want it pure opaque, then you can use actual acrylics for this. But I want it because because there's no watercolor medium and it'll be opaque, but I want it to show through. And I am working a little bit faster than I normally would because I wasn't planning on showing this on video, but I thought, why not? And if it's too long for some people, just fast forward. I do love to hear feedback from people on these projects. We've got, I've got my blog, artplace.ca, which is all my general mishmash stuff. And my journaling site, which has some swaps and activities. We're doing a Dark Side of Vintage project, which is all free to participate. That's at creativeartjournaling.com. Everything will be at the end of the video. Oops, that was still a little bit wet. That's okay. Put that aside. And I'm going to take a little bit of that paint now, and I'm just going to shadow this. Just a little bit. You can still see through it. Now, for my formal teaching with art school, you never leave a corner this bright because your eye will just go right to it. But this is just for fun, so it doesn't matter. But the training is just kicking in here, and I'm just going to knock that down a little bit. There we go. There's a circle here. The paint's not sticking to it. All right. And I'm going to take... Now, I have no idea if this is going to work. None whatsoever. This is just some glamour dust. And now I'm just going to put a little bit of glamour dust over only her dress. It'll stay transparent, but a little bit of shimmer to her dress. Oh, I missed cutting part of the flower. Her veil. I'm painting each element because if you happen to have little edges on your paint ridges and stuff like that, you want it to look natural. And then I'm going to take some purple. Just put a little bit of purple in here where the little flowers are, and I'm just kind of going little circles. And take some of the white and the white at the top. You won't see the true effect on this though until it's dry. So the purple where everything is dark, and then the white where things are a bit lighter. And then some copper. That doesn't look like copper. What color? Yep. And put that in her hair at the top. And her veil. The veil in the back. And we'll just let that dry. I'm going to let this sit for about 15 minutes. There we go. That takes care of that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to let this sit, and I'm not going to use a heat gun on this. I'm going to let it sit naturally, which will give me time to clean everything up. And I'm thinking I want to do a little bit more here. This is still too open for me. I may darken this a little bit. And then I'm going to take some paper effects in the tube, and I'll use that to do a little bit of writing. Okay, so I'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, I've cleaned everything up. So now what I want to do is I want to do some gold on here. And you can see the pretty stuff in here. And I thought about putting some other embellishments on here, but for the purpose of this challenge, I'm not going to. I was only allowed to use the supplies on my table. What I'm not going to show you, because I have to wait a full 24 hours, is putting the varnish over the whole thing, which is just satin varnish. But I'm going to use the paper effect for something else. So I was just going to use for writing. And I thought it'd be really cool, not just for writing, but to put some very, very subtle clockwork over the dark. I find that this is just too dark. Now this will dry on there, so I have to work fast. Let's see. Oh, that would make a nice image there. I need some scrap paper. So let's just put that in there. Oh yeah, that's nice. Okay. So we're into something there. Have it go right off the clock. I didn't quite do enough there. This stuff is so subtle. And I'll have to make sure that I clean the block right away. Yeah, there we go. Beautiful. Oh, let me just go off. Go. Oh, I can hear the landscapers outside. See, isn't that beautiful? There's a bit of a glare there. Actually, I'm not even going to worry about going off, but there's an edge here. So let's see if I can take advantage of that edge. Yep. That kind of ties it in together. All that steampunk stuff, all the clocks and stuff like that. So I'm going to get a paper towel. A better paper towel than that. These are ones that I've used for when I did other mono printing. And I'm just going to wet the paper towel like this and put the stamp upside down. So that will not have time to dry. And I'll just brush the sponge over the brayer. Okay, just to get the stuff off, and just leave it in the brush basin. The gel plate will come clean very, very easy. But if I wanted just to show you, see? There's a darn glare from that studio light. There you go. Makes for a nice resist. Put that over there. All right. And now, uh-oh. Oh, there it is. I'm going to put the writing tip on the paper effects. This cleans very easy. I'm just going to get it going. Okay, that one's working. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right around the lady as an outline. This will help create a little bit of a... Oh, I gotta be careful around her face. I'm gonna talk for a sec. Okay, I just I couldn't talk. And everywhere there's an outline, I'm just gonna do this. And if it breaks, it breaks. Like if the outline breaks, that's fine. This is a little bit tedious, but I just think of how beautiful it's going to be. Okay. Her neck. Her dress. So really, you can even do this with a black marker. I didn't want a black marker, I wanted gold. So everywhere where I want to see an outline. Now I can't quite make out her dress, so I'm just going to put some little frills there. I tell you, this would make for a beautiful, beautiful dress. Okay. All I'm doing is I'm drawing This is going to be the pretty one here. Whoops. Too far. And this one here. I could do the same thing with the flowers as well. Follow the lines. The flowers are really just little circles. Now, if you have, I've got a bunch of these colors, so I could have made these. I forgot to cut that off again. If I had to do this again, this is coming off. I think I stripped it. If I had to do this again, I would use different colors for the flowers. Just on the outside, get some shape going here, so it doesn't look like the flowers are floating. Oh, so beautiful. And then to kind of blend this into this, I'm going to do the same thing here. Again, I could have used a different color, but it's a challenge piece. It definitely would have looked better with another color, but when I work with the challenge pieces, you work with what you've got. You could use a marker. You could paint. Okay. And I could even do these ones as well. I could just come in. Because the writing tip makes these pieces so small, they won't be too overwhelming. They're so subtle. You don't even have to follow the real shape. Oh, these I'm going to do with the full tip though. So all I'm doing now is I'm drawing. Where does this one start? And if some of it skips, that's fine. This stuff here, before you do anything though, let it dry for a good day. I am forever. So I'm going to take this tip, I'm going to put it right in the water, and it comes with a little needle as well. And then here now I'm going to put these dots. I'm going to try to make the dots a little smaller than the actual stencil part. Oh, I missed one. That's okay. I want to try to have a little bit of black showing through. In between all those, there's a circle. Let me get another one. I think I got them all now. If I wanted to, I can even follow the outline of the butterfly. Just keep it really simple. There's another butterfly here I could do. I'm not going to bother with that one. Her hair. Oopsie. Almost forgot her hair. not going to bother with her eyes. I don't know if I can. No, not going to bother. I'm not even going to try. There's no room for mistakes with this stuff. The faster you make the lines, the smaller they're going to be. I'm going to go back over this again. This isn't quite thick enough for me, but I'm going to make it scratchy. So the lines will be broken. I mean, you can do anything you want with this. So I just wanted this to be, with Romantic Steampunk was the lady. Then the steampunk part of it is all the keys. The keys, the clocks, and stuff like that. I don't have a heck of a lot of steampunk stuff, per se, when it comes to the actual stamps and stuff like that. I don't have a lot of that stuff. So it doesn't mean you have to have so much. I'm just going to put some little random dots around. I'm a circle fanatic. There we go. So this, tap it on a table, which sends the paint down to the bottom, and somewhere around here is the cap. Oops, there's the cap. And the cap sits into this little piece here. Make sure that's nice and tight. It blocks the air. So there we go. So let me just move this, and let me get a bit of a close-up here. And hopefully the camera will focus properly. And get that out of the way. Get this out of the way. There we are. So I hope that you enjoyed my little process here. Again, it's nothing fancy. This was just something that I was putting together for my page. I really liked doing the techniques that I was doing. How many times did I say I had to cut this off? And then once this is all dry, I'll put a layer of the satin varnish on it. And then what I'll do as well is on the edges here, oh, the camera's not going to focus. See this edge here? It's a little torn. When this is all dry, because you do not want to handle this page with this stuff on it, I'll seal that with a little bit of decoupage. But let's see if the camera can stay focused. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? So there we go. So hopefully you'll get inspired by doing something like this, or do your own thing. But feel free to check out our website, creativeartjournaling.com, to participate. There's swaps and non-swap activities. And currently we're working on the dark side of vintage, which is a really cool project. And I hope to see you next time. Until then, stay inspired.